I want to kind of start out, and I want to talk about 2001. So in 2001, this is when Keith and Eric and I were done at the University of Wisconsin, right? We had started this company with some others, and I'll get to that, but this was kind of where the rubber met the road. We had to do this, well, we decided we're going to do this full time. Okay, we are going to jump in, and we all kind of jumped in at about the same time. I think it was like April of 2001 or something like that. And we kind of hit the ground running. So you saw this picture in the video. This was, I think we were at the Purdue game, Wisconsin versus Purdue in 2003, so I'm cheating a little bit here. It's not 2001, but it's kind of the right era. I still own that flannel shirt. I don't wear it, but I think I own it. So, you know, we've been friends for a long time. I also want to give acknowledgement to David Schmidt, who gave a wonderful keynote today. Let's give David Schmidt a round of applause. So Dave Schmidt was one of the original founders, and as you saw in his keynote, the original logo actually came from one of his meshes. He was very important at the beginning of our company. He decided to pursue kind of a lifelong dream of being a professor. And so we parted ways in about 2003, amicably, obviously. We still work together really well. He's a really good friend. We collaborate. We actually fund a little bit of research at UMass. So I'm very happy Dave could be here with us tonight, and I think you should get some credit for what he did at the beginning of our company. This picture, I don't know. Every time I look at this picture, I was like, wow. We got Harry Potter over here on the, Keith is Harry Potter. Dan looks like he came out of like Greece or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna say it, Eric, don't worry. But you know, this picture, you know, I did want to acknowledge Dan because Dan was one of the original members of the company as well. He decided at one point to go and work for Fluent. And he eventually became a salesperson there. I think he started in support, became a salesperson. And who would have known at the time, but him going and becoming a salesperson at Fluent, becoming one of their top salespeople, that was really going to help us later down the road, and I'll get to that in a minute. But obviously, Dan came back into the company. He actually came back in 2008, which is perfect timing, and I'll get to that in a second. But 2001, that's actually a picture from my thesis. Keith, I think that's the grid you and I made, a Kiva grid, and I don't think anybody in the world could make these better or faster, and it probably took us a week still, or something like that. Maybe 2 weeks? Okay. I was trying to make us seem a little better, but it took us 2 weeks. This mess, oh, sorry. I thought I had a laser. Okay. Anyway, that's for my thesis. I was reminiscing about that recently. These are some other kind of pictures of Kiva grids, different cutting planes. As Eric said in the video, I think Eric said it in the video, when we started our company, we were a consulting company. We were doing a lot of work making Kiva meshes, helping companies run Kiva, putting in submodels, and so on and so forth. And we could have probably sustained that, probably could still be doing that potentially, I don't know. But it wasn't really where we wanted to go. We wanted to grow. We wanted to kind of do something bigger than that. And so we decided in 2001, we wanted to replace Kiva. So we wrote a proposal to the DOE. It was an unsolicited SBIR, okay, Small Business Innovative Research. We kind of had the nerve to think, our idea is so awesome, we're just going to send this to the DOE. They didn't ask for it. They don't care, and they're going to fund us, and we're going to get going on this code. And by the way, at the time, the code was called Moses. I think we heard that sometime today. I forget when. That stood for Modular Open Source Engine Simulation Code. So Moses, which is now Converge, started out open source. So it was going to be open source. It was going to be Kiva, but modern, better, no meshing, all this kind of stuff, right? So basically what the DOE, this is a copy of the rejection letter addressed to Eric. I've never been rejected by the DOE. But Eric was rejected. I probably should have put my name on it, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, they were basically like, sounds like a great idea. Please come back when industry is interested, right? So that was actually tough. we didn't really know, okay, how are we going to get this thing off the ground? We thought the DOE was our ticket. We thought, okay, they understand Kiva. They've funded Kiva for years. They understand the benefits of it to the community. Clearly, they're going to want us to do something that is even better and faster and easier to use. So they said, come back when industry is interested. We never went back to the DOE in those early years. We had a really strong relationship with Caterpillar at the time, and we still do. And we do want to give Caterpillar credit, and we did in the video as well. Caterpillar was very interested in this idea as well. And they really took a chance on us, and they provided some initial funding. So the initial kind of versions of Moses were kind of co-funded by us, kind of sweat equity, right, and Caterpillar. So this is a copy of the front page of the proposal we wrote in 2001. It even has, I think, Keith, that's got to be your handwriting. Yeah, that's Keith's handwriting for sure. If it was mine, you wouldn't even be able to tell what it said, but that says open source. So that's a copy of our cover letter. Obviously, it got funded, and this kind of got the ball rolling. Okay, let's fast forward now to 2008. I'm gonna spare you a lot of the details of, I don't even know how much time I have. I actually don't care at this point. I'm just gonna talk. So fast forward to 2008, we'd done a lot of development over the years, right? We finally had a version of the code where we felt like, for a lot of different reasons, we can bring this to the masses now. Okay, so 2008, as you heard in the video, terrible time to start it. We basically started over in 2008, right? We had been a consulting company. We were also developing the code. But now we had to sell the code, market the code, document the code, support the code. Did I miss anything? All that. You know, and at the time it was just the three of us. Did we have Mei Zhang at that point? We also had, is Mei Zhang here? No. Oh, I do want to acknowledge Mei Zhang. He is employee number 1 or 2. TL was number 1, but TL has since left us. He's alive still. He moved on to another job. He's in China, I think, right? So he went back to China. So Mei Zhang is our current oldest employee. I don't know what you say there. But he actually leads the development team now. So it's the three of us plus Mei Zhang and TL. And so 5 of us. So financial crisis, you know, how do you start over as a company? We were essentially a brand new startup in 2008. And then, of course, the auto industry. I just grabbed this off the internet. I apologize. I don't even know if this makes any sense, but it basically shows the auto industry very, very bad. Okay, that was the time. That was kind of what we were faced with. It turned out that it was actually a really good time in a sense, because the auto companies were looking for something more efficient. They were looking for something, they were no longer really into the idea of maintaining their own codes. They wanted to be able to call somebody when something broke and not have to worry about fixing it themselves. So the whole idea of Kiva and the open source and the internal codes was there was a transition kind of around that time into kind of this commercial code idea. So we actually hit the market at a really good time. I know that sounds weird. Now, not that it was easy. It took forever. Like Eric said, when we hit the market, nobody cared. They had their processes in place. You know, why would we believe your stuff? Sales cycles are extremely long. But what also happened in 2008 that I alluded to earlier is Dan Lee came back into Convergent Science. Okay, so now we had one of the top salespeople from Fluent, which is the granddaddy of all CFD codes, right, coming back into our company. We knew him. We were good friends with him. We approached things similarly. We knew it was a good fit, and we knew we needed Dan. So the code is awesome, right? We did a good job writing the code, we like to think, but we needed someone to sell the code, okay? And so Dan coming back in 2008 was a huge part of our initial growth. So I did want to make sure I kind of hit on that. So let's talk about Moses. So I don't claim to have always been good at marketing. I like to think I'm better now, hopefully. This is fun, right? But yeah, so this was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but this could have been our slogan if we would have stuck with Moses. Hopefully nobody needs that explained. Where's Diana? No, I'm just kidding. Diana's got that too. Okay, so anyway, let's move on. Okay, Converge. So I joked about this earlier. This name sucks, blah, 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 blah. I was kind of roasting Converge. Converge is the guest of honor tonight, really. But the idea here was we need a new name, and the reason why we needed a new name is we found out that there was another CFD code out there called Moses. I mean, who would believe that, right? I don't even know if it exists anymore. I don't care. But we needed a new name because we needed to be different. And so this was sort of my idea, like, let's tie the name to the company name. And as I said earlier, sort of jokingly, but sort of serious, it's kind of led to a lot of confusion, right? Our company is called Converge and whatever, but our code is called Converge. It's all caps. Jamie? You got it? Okay. Okay, so we switched to Converge. This is kind of a nice timeline, because I don't have time to go into all the details, but this was a nice timeline that I believe Antigone put together. That is in one of our cell sheets. It's a kind of a company overview. And it talks about how we formed in 1997, but then everything else is kind of 2008 onward, because again, we started over in 2008. All of our growth has been since 2008. Just real quick, because people have been asking me, like, we want to hear more about the company history. I think stuff on this slide is probably fairly well known, though. Became commercially available. We always wrote the code with the idea that we wanted it to be general. So we were always worried about, and yes, we have engine.in with a crank flag, I know, but like we always had the idea that we want this to be bigger than IC engines at some point. But IC engines was really where our expertise was. That's where our knowledge was. That's where people in the industry knew us and trusted us. So we really did kind of put all the bells and whistles initially for IC engines, but also always thinking about the bigger picture and keeping this more general. 2012, so Dan was initially working from home in Texas. He traveled a lot. He's a sales guy, so that worked out well. But then we decided, okay, we want an office down there where Dan is, get Dan some company. So in 2012, we opened an office down in New Braunfels, Texas. That's where Tiffany works, Scott here, Scott works, Gorov, who works closely with Scott, and Dan are all down there. And that's kind of halfway between San Antonio and Austin. 2013, we talked about this in the video. That was a huge year for us because, IDAJ used to be called CDAJ. They distributed CD Adapco products. And they owned the IC engine market in Japan. And people would always ask us, or tell us, basically, you need to work with SHU. You need to work with IDAJ or CDAJ. And we said, we can't. They sell our competitors. So fortunately for us, CD Adapco decided we're going to open our own office in Japan. And so basically, IDAJ fell into our lap. We've now taken over the engine market in Japan. So that was very good for us. We also started entering the gas turbine simulation market in around 2013. You saw some great work presented by Scott Drennan earlier today on that. And then in 2014, that's when we joined with Reiner. So Reiner had been our distributor previously in Europe. Ignite 3D was the name of the company. And in 2014, we said, man, we should just join because we like what you're doing, we trust you, we work really well together, we should all just be the same company, basically. So we merged in 2014. We also held our first CONVERGE User Conference in 2014 here in Madison. It was at the Monona Terrace. And then we started simulating aftertreatment. This is probably boring, huh? And then in 2015, we opened our 8 Mile office in Michigan. It's not really on 8 Mile, but it's near 8 Mile. Not that part of 8, anyway. We entered the compressor and pump market around 2015. We at least started dabbling in it. 2016 is when we had our first event in Europe. We started small. We said, okay, we kind of want to do our user conference. We want to mimic what we do here in Europe. We think we're ready for that. But we want to kind of get our feet wet first. We don't want to jump in full bore immediately. So we held what we called a combustion summit in Nice. It was a one-day event, okay, focused mainly on combustion modeling. We have a really strong partnership with IFPEN. We implemented kind of officially the IFPEN combustion models were first released in 2016. And then in 2017, Ashish, where are you? Ashish. So another kind of fortunate thing happened for us. ANSYS bought, TechPlot guys here? Yeah, okay. All right, I'll be careful how I say this. Okay. ANSYS bought Nsight, or CEI, right? So that was kind of funky. Like, Nsight's our post-processor. We work with other post-processors, but they're kind of our default, or the one you get for free when you buy Converge. What happened out of that was two things. We got TechPlot as a partner, which we're thrilled by, and we've got Tom and Scott here. And we got Ashish. Where were you again, Ashish? Okay. I can't see the mustache from here, sorry. Okay, so we got Ashish. So Ashish worked for CEI India. So he was actually our Indian distributor through CEI. It's kind of an interesting relationship. But when that ANSYS thing happened, Ashish said, hey, I think this is how this happened. Hey, I want to work for you guys. And so we started an office in Pune, and Ashish runs that office. And now we have, 7 people there, as you saw in the video. So we're actually growing pretty quickly there. And now we're at today, the 10-year anniversary. Okay. I don't mean this slide to be, I don't mean to brag by this slide, although it's going to come off that way. I kind of do, but it's sort of like a testament to, when we set out, and I remember Keith and Eric, the thing I love about Keith and Eric is they're both forever optimists when it comes to the business. And sometimes I tend to think too much about things sometimes, and I'm like, well, what about this? What about that? Keith and Eric told me once, a long time ago, everybody one day is going to be using our code. Okay? Not that everybody's using our code, but if you look at what's going on in the auto industry in the US, Europe, and Japan, most companies are using our code, right? So this isn't to brag, it's to say we had a lot of setbacks. Like, it looks like everything was awesome and wow, you guys grow and all this. There are a lot of things that we can't even talk about because, we don't want to talk about them. But we had a lot of setbacks over the years. It wasn't all awesome, right? But the result, I feel like, is awesome. And we want to replicate this kind of success, as we said in the video, in other markets as well, and we're starting down that path. Okay, let me talk about this. So hopefully people caught this at the beginning of the video. I know everyone was eating and stuff, but you saw this crazy coding stuff, and then delete the code, and then put this quote in. So this quote has kind of an interesting life to it in itself. So about 15 years ago, I'm just guessing, I put that quote into the code. That's back when I coded. I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, I coded at one point. At first, I'm giving energy to the creation, but later the creation seems to be giving energy to me, by Robert Fritz. And the reason why I say Robert Fritz is because this actually has a link to Kiva. So we learned a lot from Kiva in grad school. And as much as the meshing sucks and this and complain about CC Flux and all this stuff, we actually learned a lot. And the guys that wrote that code were brilliant guys. So we wanted to give a hat tip to Kiva. Every time we'd open up Kiva, this Kiva source code, you'd see this quote, and I know there are people in this room that have seen this quote a billion times. It says, it's at the top of the screen, "Friend, don't be a perfectionist. Perfectionism is a curse and a strain," by Fritz Perls. Okay? The only way that's linked to the Converge quote is the name Fritz. Okay. So that's our hat tip to Kiva, okay? But let me talk more about this quote, because this quote actually has a ton of meaning, and it kind of tells the Converge story, kind of in a way. So if you look at the first part, at first I'm giving energy to the creation. So we talked about in the video, we spent hours and hours coding. We spent hours and hours in the basement coding. And, 6 months we didn't go home. We didn't see our families, except Keith went home that one night and hard-coded the viscosity before he went home. I still want that 8 hours back. But, a lot of energy. It's not just us, it's our team. It's a Convergent Science team. We have close to 100 people now, and we have some people that have kind of come and gone, but a lot of people have contributed to this code. It's not just us. And all of you guys, our clients, our collaborators. The reason why we keep pushing the code is because you guys are telling us to, right? If our customers are constantly telling us, we need it faster, we need it more accurate, we need this, we need that, that's great, that keeps us going. So all of you are part of the evolution of Converge. So that's putting energy into the creation. The creation obviously is Converge and the Converge community. But later, the creation seems to be giving energy to me. Okay, so I think I speak for all of us, Keith, Eric, Dan, and also Reiner, when I say that, we come to work every day, we get excited about lines of code and stuff like that, but it's not really what gets us going every day. I mean, matching pressure traces is awesome, but it's not really what kind of gets us excited every day, in the sense that it's the stuff that we talked about in the video. It's seeing our employees succeed, reaching their goals, reaching their career goals, seeing them do, and Eric said it really nicely, seeing them do something better than we could have done, right? And that's really important. That's all the stuff that gives me energy every day, right? And I think I'm speaking for all of the owners when I say that. I think they feel the same way. So with that, I'd like to conclude.